Goal line defense. How do we defend the last inch of the field? I think when we think about defense, we mostly obviously think about our base defense, we think about our blitzes, we think about, how we're going to defend the run, the RPO, this and that. And usually deep down the list, maybe a few months into the game, we think about goal line defense. And I think that's probably not the best way of going about it. I think it's, obvious, okay, how often are you really in that situation? When we talk about goal line, there aren't too many options in terms of the actual formation itself, the goal line formation. So we just kind of pick one and hope for the best. But the reality is that these are really high leverage situations. Okay, so these are situations where big changes in the game can happen, either a score or a turnover on downs, particularly maybe late in the game or in overtime. And I really think it's something you should take the time to make sure that you have a plan for. And I think that time is right now in this video. I think there's a nice, easy way to set up goal line defense and how to think about, how you user control and what to look for, that you don't really need to have some big grand scheme for it, just something simple. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video here today. You have two options when it comes to goal line defense. You have 6-2 and you have 5-3. In my opinion, and probably in an ideal world, I'm going to show you why one is better than the other, but just, so the video doesn't drag on, I think 5-3 is a much better option. What we want to be able to do is, number one, defend the quarterback sneak. And then from there, we want to defend fullback dive. And then from there, we want to be able to handle the running back routes without giving up too much in terms of a potential play action pass off of that. Okay. And starting with that, the quarterback sneak, in my opinion, 5-3 is much better than 6-2. And the reason why is that we can essentially get 3 defenders into the A gaps rather than just 2. Okay. Now, if you run just 5-3 base, I don't think it's going to be a good look for you. I think you basically only have 1 defender in the A gap, and that's this nose tackle right here. And then you have 2 defensive tackles outside of them, but they're kind of positioned in the B gaps. And so you tend to give away pretty consistent yardage on the quarterback sneak. Something like this. I think there are situations, if I run this a few times, where the nose tackle will actually, sideswipe the center as he does here and make a play. But it just, once the quarterback gets into this animation, it's really, really difficult to, not give up that yard or not give up that inch. So while it looks like, okay, this is pretty good run defense, the reality is, we cannot afford an inch. We can't afford a yard. We can't afford that. We need to be basically, stuffing that quarterback for a loss consistently so that this can be our defense. So that's obviously not ideal. We don't want to just come out in 5-3 and hope for the best. What are we going to do? Okay, so let's reset. What is this defense? So it's called 5-3. I think it's more of a 7-3 because you have these outside linebackers over here on either edge. They're going to be setting the edge for you in different run schemes. You have the corner. Obviously, you have only 1 corner over here. So I think if you are coming up against regular I form or anything more than that, I wouldn't run goal line. Okay, maybe like I form wing where you just have 1 receiver. I think you should be okay. But anything where you have 2 receivers or more, don't even bother with goal line. Go to something else. But certainly when there's a goal line offense or, I form jumbo or I form wing, I think this is definitely a good look because, again, if I do YY, we see we only have 2 defensive backs. We basically have 7 defensive linemen. We have 2 off-ball linebackers. We have a corner and we have a safety. Okay, but how we think about it is 7 on the line, 3 off, and then you have this kind of corner over here to maybe help with the wing tight end. Now, the play that I'm picking is goal line man. I think there's going to be some temptation to go and, pick these plays that have like max blitzing and, everybody up the A gap and things like that. But I would not bother with that. Okay. for quarterback sneak, these guys are not going to be getting involved. Don't expect these guys to make a play. You want to defend quarterback sneak with your guys up front. Okay, so these are basically these interior guys. And the way that it's set up by default, that you're not going to get that, right? You just have a one-on-one right here. You have one-on-one between the center and the nose tackle. And even if the nose tackle wins, as I showed you, he's not going to be able to win in time to tackle the quarterback before he gets an inch. So the really obvious adjustment, like the first thing that you're going to even think about doing for anybody that's played this game more than a little bit is let's pinch the line. So now we have 2 extra bodies in the A-gaps. So we have this defensive tackle that's playing inside shade of the guard, and then over here, same thing on the right side, and then we have the nose right on top of the center. And then on top of that, we're going to also crash or slant inside when we look at the point of attack over here. So obviously, left on the D-pad, right down on the right stick. And so now we legitimately have 3 defensive linemen inside the A-gaps. So what we're going to get here, and this is kind of actually somewhat of a weird alignment. I don't know if just some guys shifted for some weird reason. I think usually it doesn't look quite like this. But you're going to have a wash on the center and the nose. And then you're going to have 2 defensive tackles that have inside position on the guards, and that should be able to close the A-gap and tackle the quarterback for a loss. Now, this looks better. I don't know what was going on, some weird movement here, but this looks much better. Okay, so now if I run it, you're going to get this situation. Okay, so it's maybe obvious, but maybe you didn't think about it. I don't know. So if I go to the right, he's going to get stuffed. If I go to the left, he's going to get stuffed. So quarterback sneak, from what I've seen, is impossible to run on this look. Okay, so that's number 1. We want to make sure quarterback sneak is not allowed. Now, if it's like, your opponent needs 2 yards or 3 yards, maybe you don't really need to sell out for the quarterback sneak. But from my experience, and probably yours as well, good players likely won't bust out the goal line offense until maybe they need an inch. Okay, if it's anything more than that, they're probably going to be just in their base offense. Maybe more kind of new / mediocre players will be using goal line more. But I think this is great to have in your back pocket for whenever it might come out. Okay, so great. So pinch our guys, slant inside, and they're going to be good against the QB sneak. And now again, we get this weird alignment. I don't know what happened here, but I'm just going to check again. And yeah, so you should be good. So then over here in the back end, we didn't do anything crazy. We don't need to mug our linebacker. We don't need to blitz anybody. So we can be safe in terms of if it's a play action pass, we still have everybody covered man to man. Actually, that's not true. We don't. I forget what happened. Maybe I picked the wrong play, but we should have everybody man to man. If for whatever reason it isn't, you might need to take one of these blitzers off and cover this guy man to man. So I don't love that. I don't know why that happened. Now, what's left? We have the fullback dive, and we have the running back routes as well. So what have we done here, really? Well, when we're playing run defense, we need to make sure that we're gapped out, right? Okay, so number 1, we need to make sure we gapped out, and we need to have extra options for the quarterback run and extra option for the fullback run. Okay, so when we think about the gaps, we have an edge defender over here. We have the safety who's in this outside C gap right here. We have B gap. We have both A gaps clogged by these defensive tackles. And then, in my opinion, like this nose tackle is kind of like your extra defender that's responsible for the quarterback run game. And in this case, the quarterback run game is the quarterback sneak. Okay, but then it kind of flips because then the center takes him away. But then the center takes him away, and then these guys have great leverage. And as I showed you, they do a great job of defending the quarterback sneak. So we're gapped out in the A gaps, and then we have a +1 that's for the quarterback. Okay, that's very important. And then we have the B gap over here by this, defensive tackle as well. We have this off-ball linebacker that's plugging this C gap. We have this edge defender over here and this D gap. And then we have the cornerback on the far edge. So we're gapped out. We have an extra defender that's basically accounting for the quarterback. And then we have our middle linebacker. Okay, and the middle linebacker, which is likely going to be yourself, the user defender, who you're basically responsible for, is the fullback. Okay, and what I mean by responsible for the fullback, number one, is in the passing game. So if for whatever reason your opponent runs a play action, if they run the pass, we're going to go cover that fullback man to man. In many cases, that's a decent route to throw to get an inch. And so don't let your opponent do that, right? Watch for that play action. Don't get caught up in, trying to stuff the running back. We want to go and make sure that we're covering the fullback so that you don't get a, easy pass for a score there. So that's number one. Okay, you're keying off the fullback, just number one, to make sure he doesn't leak out into a pass route, but we're also keying on him in terms of the running game. Okay, so how do I want to do this? Do I want to talk about fullback run next? Or, let's talk about just a regular run. So, and when I mean regular run, let's just talk about maybe the most extreme, because we're not going to go over all of them, is strong toss. Okay, so any run by the running back. So now what you're getting is, with the fullback, you get an extra gap. Okay, with the fullback, you get an extra gap. I already went over how we're gapped out. We're accounting for the quarterback. And now who's going to take that extra gap? That's us. Okay, and so this is why I don't like the idea of like mugging this and trying to get up in that A gap. Let's just let those guys do their thing. They're going to plug those gaps. They're going to take it. They're going to take control, make sure that no QB sneak action is going to give us trouble. We're just going to sit here and not allow the fullback to influence the play. And so what I mean by that is that on this toss play, and I'm just going to take myself out of the play. On this toss play, this can be really difficult for you. So let's take a little look at the instant replay. And actually, to be honest with you, the fullback didn't even have to do anything here. Because this guy, oh my God, this guy didn't do anything. Okay, I don't love that. This guy didn't really do anything here. But the idea here is that this fullback would take this free defender. He would take this free defender, and then we would scrape over the top and be the +1. Or if the fullback takes us, then this guy is free to make a play on the running back. Okay, so let's see if I can do that with all these things in motion and try to run this. Okay, we're gonna pinch, do this whole thing, and now what we're gonna do, because we're not really aggressive in the A gap, we can see the fullback jumping out there, and then we can go and make a play, be that +1 on that side, so that we're still gapped out. Likewise, if they go strong toss and they go the other way, we want to do that same thing over there, right? We want to be that +1. And let's just take a look at that again. Let's go look at the instant replay right here. So this is actually kind of a nice look right here. So our edge defender actually did a really great job here. But basically you have one blocker for two defenders now, myself and this guy. And so whoever he picks, wherever the running back goes, we should have an answer to stuff him in the backfield. Again, goal line, we don't have an inch to spare. Basically, everything needs to be a loss for us. We need to tackle these guys behind the line of scrimmage because we don't want them to fall forward and, get that touchdown. Okay? And I think this is a really great look. Keep yourself free. Keep yourself free. You don't need to get caught up in the mix here, in the mud, and get stuck. And then, you get this situation where you're... Oh, okay, my bad. But you know what I mean. You don't want to get caught up there and then you get a toss or a power O or halfback sting or halfback zone, whatever that is, and you don't have that defender to account for the fullback, which is that extra gap. Okay, so let's round it out here with just the fullback run game. So when we think about the fullback run game, fullback dive, what the fullback run game is now the offense is losing a gap basically, right? Because this guy, the running back, is not going to be able to block for the fullback. So the offense is losing a gap. So in theory, you could take yourself out of the play. Now this guy's going to walk back down, but let's pretend he's out of the play. And we're still gapped out, right? D gap, C gap, B gap, A gap. We have the quarterback guy still there. We have the B gap over here, over here, over here, over here. So you technically don't even need to really be in the mix right here. And you should be sound against the fullback run. So this was, I was hoping this wouldn't happen. What usually happens is you get this situation. This just crazy situation because we have 3 guys in the A gap and the blocking just can't really account for it. And so in many cases, what you'll get is you'll actually get a sack before the quarterback can even hand it off to the fullback. But that's not always going to be the case. And it might be a ratings things, I don't know. Let's run it a few. Oh, that's quarterback sneak. My bad. Let's run this a few times. Go here. Let's go fullback dive. Let's run it again. Yeah. So here's the issue. When you don't get that situation where I showed you, where you just get everybody bursting through the A gap, which happens quite often, the fullback gets it, and we're still gapped out. This is great run defense because the safety is now coming down. He's filling this open gap, and he is stuffing the fullback. The problem here is that obviously right here, your offense could get a good animation. He can either make this safety miss, you can truck him, he can fall forward, that kind of stuff. So I was fortunate here, but that's not always going to be the case. So this is kind of the worst case scenario, to be honest with you. Let's run it a few more times, see what we get. Do we get... Oh, I keep running this sneak. Sorry, guys. Let's run it a few more times. Let's see what happens. Fullback dive. Yeah, see, actually, that's the true worst case scenario where you don't get guys bursting through that A gap and he's still able to fall forward for the score. So you could, in theory, there's 2 things you can do. Again, we're kind of responsible for the fullback. So we could burst in there ourselves and just add some extra noise. But there's so many bodies there. There are so many bodies there that it's hard for us to shoot any gaps, right? As we saw there. Maybe, let's see if I can even do it with my cursor. Like maybe inside this tackle right here, if I was better, maybe I could squeeze through there and gap shoot. I don't know. So then I guess the only really remaining question is, do you want to user this guy or do you want to user this guy? Because if you're using the safety here, you can be more aggressive shooting the C gap, and you could get contact on that fullback before he even gets close to the line of scrimmage. So again, we had this situation where this guy burst through the A gap, so try to ignore him for a second. But you see, I was able to be aggressive here and meet that fullback in the backfield. So now, yeah, that's still something I'm trying to work out, to be honest. Because if you're this guy, then to be honest, this guy doesn't do a great job of playing like the toss and things like that. Now, it might be a ratings thing. I don't know. So either user this guy, or if you're worried about the fullback dive, or this guy if you're worried about the toss. But again, sneak, we should be okay with everybody in front. We're gapped out, everything to go. But, as with anything, like just being gapped out doesn't mean you're going to be successful, because that handoff to the fullback is so quick. It's about, can you get to the gap before one of these off linebackers can? And it's this guy in this case. Okay, so let's run it one more time. Yeah, so I mean, in many cases, again, you're going to get to the quarterback before he can even hand that off. So anyway, I think basically I've spent 20 minutes talking about the most obvious goal line defense that you can come up with, which is just one of the two options, and pinching and crashing. But now you know for sure that's the best option. But just don't go crazy with the other plays where there's too many blitzers. Even this one that I picked, I forget which one I picked, just make sure that all 5 receiving threats are covered man-to-man. They don't need to be blitzing. They're not going to be helping in the quarterback sneak game. In some cases, like I showed you, they're not even needed in defending the fullback dive. You just need to be smart. If you get like a toss or something, you got to follow, make sure that fullback's taking out of the play, and you should be good to go. Okay, so start making some amazing goal line stands, guys. And if this works for you in game, come back here and give this video a like. Otherwise, keep an eye out for the next one.